Hello and welcome to the CEO Masterclass. And we're going to be talking to the founder and executive chairman of Chimeric Therapeutics. And this is your chance to get an understanding of this company and where it might be heading. Paul Hopper, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Peter, for having me.
Now, Paul, why don't you tell us about the actual founding of Chimeric Therapeutics?
Yes, certainly. So the company was formed on the basis of technology that I licensed from a prestigious cancer center in California called the City of Hope Cancer Center, with whom I have a very close relationship. I've formed a number of companies out of the technology that they've spawned there. This is a technology that falls under the umbrella of what they call cell therapy, and in particular, this very, very promising area of cell therapy called CAR-T cell therapy. So I licensed the technology in, I think, 2019-20. We did a pre-IPO raise last year, and then we took the company public on the ASX in an IPO in January this year.
Okay, so tell us about CAR-T therapies.
Yeah, CAR-T is an acronym for chimeric antigen receptor T cell. And I don't know whether you remember your ancient history, but a chimera was this mythical figure in Greek or Roman mythology made up of many different parts, had a funny tail and a funny head. Mm-hmm. Anyway, CAR-T is a T cell which has been re-engineered or had its software changed to turn it into a guided missile to attack a particular target on the surface of a cancer cell. And so the chimeric antigen receptor T cell is shortened for CAR-T.
Okay, so you've got two drug assets in your portfolio. So can you talk to us about, I think is it chlorotoxin first?
Exactly. So we do have two CAR-Ts in the company. The first one was the technology that we floated the company on, which is chlorotoxin, which is a rather exotic technology because the active ingredient in the CAR-T is actually derived from scorpion toxin.
Sure.
It's a peptide, and when they reprogram the T cell, so you take a T cell, which is an important part of everybody's immune system, and they reprogram the T cell. The T cell is normally pretty good at picking up nasty things in your body, but often it misses cancers. And for some reason, lost in the mists of evolution, the peptide derived from scorpion toxin can reprogram the T cell so that it attacks a target specifically on the surface, in the case of this one, brain cancer. The second asset we have comes from the powerhouse of CAR-T therapy, probably the pioneering institution in the world, the University of Pennsylvania. And it has a little bit further to go to get into a clinical trial, and it targets another target on the surface of a cancer cell called CDH17. So at the moment we have two assets. One is in a phase 1 clinical trial at City of Hope. The other one at the University of Pennsylvania, or UPenn. We're working on the manufacturing of a drug to take it into a clinical trial next year.
It's fascinating to think that scientists, researchers could actually even just try a scorpion to achieve something that other more probably logical animals or insects or bugs that have been used in the past. It's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
It is. It's astonishing. But I mean, the scientific world is full of examples of pulling things out of nature and turning out to be very useful in human medicine. So it had been used as an imaging agent. So we knew a little bit about it in the past. So, you can think the idea of injecting something associated with scorpion toxin into a patient's brain, it's a little bit out there. But there had been some other evidence of its use in humans, so we did know it was probably going to be safe.
Okay, so as chairman, can you talk to us about the management team that is running the company?
Right. Well, you probably expect me to say this, but I think I certainly know I've got the preeminent CAR-T team in this country. But when I put the team together, the most successful CAR-T company in the world is probably Kite. Kite is owned by Gilead. They bought it for billions of dollars a few years ago. And the global head of commercial there was a lady called Jennifer Chow. and I was able to recruit her as the CEO. Last year, a CAR T company called Legend did the largest biotech IPO on NASDAQ, and I was able to recruit the chief medical officer from there as my chief medical officer. I've got my chief development officer. He came over from Kite after Jennifer, and my other key executive, Dr. Lee Ren, she came from Bristol Myers. So, I mean, this is a powerhouse. So between the four of them, they've worked on 25 CAR T drugs, and there's only 5 CAR T drugs approved in the world, and my team worked on 4 of them. So there is nobody else like them. They really are an outstanding group of people.
So tell us about the CAR T sector. There seems to be a lot of activity on a global scale.
Yeah, so what's happened is, for the first time, you're now starting to talk about cures in cancer with CAR T therapy. So you can imagine there's been a scramble, a land grab to find technologies and assets. And so there's a great deal of clinical trials taking place, big M&A activity. You know, Juno started out life and then it got acquired, and Kite was acquired by Gilead. You know, the sector is awash with mergers and acquisitions. So the issue at the moment is that the 5 CAR Ts that have been approved only work in blood cancers. That's what we call liquid tumours. They don't work in solid tumours like brain cancer or lung or kidney or prostate. So there is a massive effort to get a CAR T approved in solid tumours, which is exactly the area that we're heading down, because we're doing brain cancer at City Hope. That's a solid tumour, and that's where a lot of activity. So it is a huge area of interest globally. People, every company that's CAR Ts fall under what they call cell therapy. That is where you take, you know, a person's cells and you manipulate them. It's a huge area of interest.
Okay. So how does the Chimeric therapeutic products compare to others in the space when it comes to progress and valuation?
Right. So too early to say, because we're only in a phase 1 study, and we still have a bit to go on that, and we haven't actually told the market what's happened to the first group of patients yet. So I can't tell you, but you know, we're obviously positive about the technology. We think it's got great promise. You generally don't have to go all the way to a phase 3 with the CAR T technology to get an approval. You can actually get an approval on what they would call a pivotal or registration phase 2 study. So if you get strong data in phase 1, which supports going into a phase 2, you're going to get a lot of interest from the big pharma companies or other very large biotechs, because the runway in one sense is a little bit shorter to an approval. And in the case of glioblastoma, there hasn't been any real innovation for 30 years. I mean, the standard treatment is zap it with radiation, poison it with chemo, and resect it or cut it out. There's been very, very little improvement. So you don't have to show a great deal of improvement in the drug to probably get an approval from the FDA, because it's such a dismal disease.
And what are you expecting from Chimeric over the next 6 to 12 months? Because anyone who invests is always intrigued. I think they've all become aware it's a long lead time before you get a big return. But if you show promising signs, it can be quite good.
Yeah, if you get a signal in the study early, then particularly in brain cancer, you'd be a very favoured company for sure. So over the next 12 months, we'll give data out of our phase 1 clinical trial on the brain cancer study, and we would open up the clinical trial at UPenn for the second CAR T we have. In terms of valuations, look, the company has a market cap at the moment of about 110 million. We have 2 platform technologies for CAR Ts. You've probably heard this many times, and everyone says it. If we were listed on NASDAQ, we'd probably have a much, bigger market cap, but we're quietly building the company and the team. And the main thing, you rise and fall on the data. Data is the be-all and end-all in biotech companies.
How many people in the world suffer from brain cancer?
I think there's about 30,000+ a year in the US, so it's a decent sized market. I think it's worth about $1 billion, so that would be obviously an incredibly good target to go after. But I think what's more interesting is this is not just a brain cancer drug, because the target that I mentioned on the surface of the cancer cell also turns up in melanoma and in breast cancer and a bunch of other cancers. So we're actually going to open up a study that includes some other cancers.
Well, it's a really interesting area, and I guess for the sake of all the sufferers out there, you really hope you can kick some big goals with this. Thanks for joining us on the program, and lots of luck going forward.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate your time.
And that was Paul Hopper, the founder and executive chairman of Chimeric Therapeutics. And as we always say with these CEO masterclasses, this is an opportunity for you to learn something about the company. It's not a recommendation from us, but purely an opportunity for you to learn more about a listed company. Thanks for joining us in this version of the Switzer CEO Masterclass.